This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Thursday, December 21st, and we have to move it along here, folks. It is the shortest day of the year, winter solstice, but you have to get out the door and do, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom? Is that the name? The press
That's
screening?
it, Jim. I was not invited to any press screenings. I'm sure that is a total coincidence and not a reflection of the quality of the film.
Oh.
So I'm going to go pay my $17 to go see it at the IMAX City Walk. Okay. So yeah, I think that's what I'm doing with my evening. Yeah.
Wow, that's $17 well spent. Okay. On the other hand, the other reason I'm moving this along is as we start recording this on CBS right now, there's a 2-hour-long special, Dick Van Dyke, 98 Years of Magic. And I do want to try to see some of that show tonight. And, Drew, have you ever had the chance to sit down with Dick Van Dyke?
I've never sat down with him, but I've been at countless media events where Disney trots him out and says, look, here's Dick Van Dyke. He's still alive and he can dance. I think that the last one was, for the UK Pavilion's Mary Poppins attraction that we all are currently enjoying, Jim, over at Epcot. Yeah. I think we were probably sitting next to each other when that was unfolded.
Okay. In fact, it's interesting you bring that up because the Disney dish that Len and I recorded just this morning actually touches on the, I guess it was going to be called the Royal Dalton Music Hall Spinner Ride. I mean, you were supposed to enter the Banks' house on the backside of the UK Pavilion, and then they were going to do that effect from the Belle meet and greet where you move from her dad's cottage to the Beast Castle, and you were going to enter the world of the Royal Dalton Bowl, and then there was a spinner ride. But the reason we were doing that story is prior to that, Disney had developed a Christmas Carol ride for the UK Pavilion, and I actually have a piece of artwork that Sam McKim did for that back in '84. So, we were using that as an excuse to talk about Mary Poppins. But anyway, getting back to Dick Van Dyke, I was lucky enough to score a sit down with Mr. Van Dyke. This would have been 10 or 15 years ago. He was, of all places, he was at SIGGRAPH because it turns out he animates as a hobby. And the company that developed the software that Dick liked to use when he animated was there. And so he came to sing their praises. And afterwards, the publicist was nice enough to walk me around to the back of the exhibit. And I got some time with Mr. Van Dyke. And they always tell you never meet your heroes. And I'm pleased to report that Dick Van Dyke was everything you wanted Dick Van Dyke to be. He was generous with his time and his anecdotes. He was very personable, great fun. And though I have to ask you, as given you work out there in L.A., what do you make of 98 Years of Magic? I'm trying not to make any connection
to the Betty White thing.
The Betty White thing.
Yeah.
I'm
sure there were people, Jim, that were watching the clock to make sure that we made it to midnight today for 98. But
for those of you who don't remember, there was this huge celebration of Betty White's 100th birthday that was planned. I want to say it was supposed to be January 17th, 2022. And the thing is that Betty passed away in her sleep on December 31st, 2021. And weren't the newsstands already covered with like commemorative issues of like People and Entertainment Weekly that were honoring Betty, for the 100th? I mean, it kind of blew up in everybody's face.
Yeah,
So,
it wasn't great.
okay.
But we thank her for being a friend. Don't we?
Well, thank you. Oh, very good. Very good.
And if you ever want to see some great Betty White vamping, what is the Disney special that she's on with B. Arthur, where they actually seem like they can stand each other's company, and they go behind the scenes at Disney MGM and sing songs and.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, folks, it's the whole thing with the Dick Van Dyke thing. You want to honor your legends while they're still here. And speaking of honoring people, Mr. Taylor and I want to thank all of you who contributed to the GoFundMe that Len Testa and Tim O'Brien set up for our late producer, Aaron Adams. Over $10,000 has been raised in Aaron's memory. That's more than twice our original goal. So, and all monies collected will go to Aaron's widow, Sabrina Geiger. So thank you so much for your kindness and generosity. And by the way, if you want to read Aaron's obit and contribute to the fund, head on over to tinyurl.com/Aaron Z. Adams. So, okay, so let's just get started here with the news portion of the show. And speaking of which, I guess I should mention, the news portion of Fine Tuning is brought to you by TouringPlans.com. Touring Plans can help you save time and money at theme parks like Walt Disney World. Please check them out at TouringPlans.com. So, a big story this week, Drew, is the talk of a Warner Bros Discovery Paramount merger. And I guess what intrigues me about this is, it wasn't all that long ago where we were hearing whispers of a Warner Brothers Discovery, NBC, Universal, Comcast merger. So any thoughts on what happened here, or?
Well, I mean, that could still be. I think that there clearly seem to be like a number of suitors that are kind of kicking the tires on Paramount. Mm-hmm. We talked about Skydance last week. So this is the latest. It's interesting because these configurations have to be in certain parameters, like, a Universal Paramount merger would not work because you would have to give up one of the TV channels. CBS is owned by Paramount and NBC is owned by Universal. So one of those would have to go. So that wouldn't make as much sense. Warner Brothers does not have a TV channel, and I think it would benefit, from Paramount's library. But you and I were talking about, the combined animation might of the two.
Yeah, that gets interesting because you had mentioned specifically when we were pre-gaming the mashup of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon.
Yeah, and
I'm blanking the gentleman. I want to say Guillermo, but I know I'm wrong. He did the wonderful Netflix series.
Jorge Gutierrez.
There we go, Jorge.
Yeah.
And Jorge is not a fan of this idea. As he put it on social media, it means we're Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon to effectively merge. That's one less place that you can go and pitch things to. And that's an interesting take on this as well. That further consolidation within the business is not necessarily a good thing if you're somebody who's a creator. Though we were just talking about Universal, and in fact, when we finish up here tonight, Drew has to run to get to City Walk to catch his screening of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, right?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay, but as long as we're mentioning Universal properties, you did see the news about the Great Britain park, right?
Well, has Universal said anything? It looked like a lot of like patent filings and real estate things and all that. But
okay.
What's your take on it?
I'm not allowed to share my source, but I learned about this in late November, and it's real. And what's fascinating about it is that Mark Woodbury, who, well, Drew, was the head of Universal Creative and now is in charge of, Universal Parks and Experiences. He has a very distinct vision for this property because, first of all, it's in the UK. And because there was already that Warner Brothers Harry Potter tour thing, so Potter's not going to be a part of this project, and Simpsons obviously isn't going to travel because of Disney. So this is going to be the first Universal park that really leans into their IP, like exclusively. But where this gets interesting is Mark Woodbury evidently passionately believes that Universal is finally in the place that Disney is, that it has all of these IPs, whether it's Minions, or Shrek or Trolls or, Migration, all of these characters that people love. And it's like, look, we can build a really good park just with stuff we own. We don't need to license anything. So, it's going to be interesting. And obviously the other thing, because this is being built in the UK, is going to be largely indoors because it rains a lot there. But yeah, no, this is a thing. And what is it? The Bliss, Texas Kid Park, Universal Kids will open before this. Also Epic Universe, but and of course the Las Vegas permanent Halloween Horror Night thing. But yeah, this could be up and running, Drew, as early as 2026, more likely 2027. So,
well, I can't wait to learn more when we're off the air, since you did not share any of this information with me beforehand.
I'm sorry. Looking ahead on the calendar, Disney, released information about its 2024 slate, both for theatrical release and Disney Plus. And you were pointing out there are some notable omissions. Care to comment?
Well, they put out a slate that includes theatrical and Disney Plus, and there was no animated movie from Walt Disney Animation Studios for Thanksgiving 2024 on there. There was no Moana or Tiana shows, which we had been promised forever.
Yep.
And there was no Win or Lose, Jim, which is my passion, is keeping track of what's going on with Win or Lose. So, yeah.
Now, how much of this, face it, how likely is it that we're going to get a Thanksgiving without a new animated film from Disney? I mean, has that happened in the past 30 years?
I mean, yeah, there were some time, like, Winnie the Pooh was in summer. That didn't work out for anybody in 2011. Okay. There have been times when they've been out in the summer. But, yeah, I mean, I think that there probably will be a Disney animated movie next year. But I think the combined, hits of Strange World and now Wish are pretty unsettling. Wish was sort of like Disney's last great hope for the year because it had such an off year and it just did not deliver in any way, shape, or form. Have you seen it yet?
I have not. And
okay, that says it all.
My opportunities to see it theatrically are rapidly drying up. But again, how much of this do you think is people just waiting? Knowing that this is going to turn up on Disney Plus in January or February.
I think that's definitely part of it. But I think that if the movie had come out and every critic had said, "Oh my God, you've got to see this," it's the best thing since Beauty and the Beast, that people would have gone. And there was not that sentiment, and there was not the sentiment from early audiences that suggested that there would be a favorable audience response. And I think it will find its audience. I think, I've said on this show time and time again that I think Disney Plus is the worst thing to happen to the company in a while, just because of the way that it's kind of devalued every single business unit, including parks, I think. And so, yeah, I think this is just another casualty of the Disney Plus black hole. As you and I are not sitting in front of our televisions watching What If right now, Jim, I think that is something that's...
That did start today, didn't it?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. Another thing I'm not paying attention to. But again, worth noting here that it wasn't. I mean, we did have $1 billion earner. When it came to animation, we did have the Super Mario Brothers movie. What? 574 domestic, 786 overseas, so a $1.3 billion earner worldwide. And, we already know that there's a sequel of sorts in the works.
I think it's actually in production already, is what I have heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
On the other hand, kind of interesting, the, I don't know if you heard about the Legend of the Little Mermaid show that is going to be debuting at Disney Hollywood Studios the fall of next year. This is, however, based on the animated version, not the Halle Bailey live action of the Rob Marshall movie of the past year. And Drew, I'm kind of fascinated by that, because if you look at the actual numbers for the Little Mermaid that came out this year, 298 stateside, 271 overseas, so it made over $500 million at the box office. Now, mind you, if we factor in what it cost to make in the middle of the pandemic, are you hearing the same numbers? Mid 250, maybe 300 to get that thing out?
I've heard higher than that. I have heard that is one of the most expensive movies Disney has ever made.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it turned a profit at all. I mean, they wanted it to make $1 billion.
For me, when you look at what this film made in back in '89, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ariel's a beloved character, made a lot of money for the company, but the movie early on, I mean, only 111 million when it was initially released, and 99 overseas, just above 2 million at the box office back in '89.
But how many cassettes did it move, Jim? That's the question. And how many plushes and figurines and everything?
Well, that brings us to the other interesting, again.
Well, wait, before we move on from Little Mermaid, have you noticed how they're trotting out that 60 billion number in every press blast now? It's really interesting. It's like, as part of the $60 billion, reinvestment in parks, it's like, wait a minute, from everything everybody has heard, that thing was Mildew City because of a leaky pipe that hadn't been fixed in a decade. So don't act like this is some amazing reinvestment in the park. You had to do it. I thought that was very funny.
Well, I let's not forget that the other thing about that $60 billion is that when, if you're somebody who's covering themed entertainment, and every 5 minutes, Universal is, we're building a kids park in Texas. And we haven't officially admitted yet, but we're building a park in Great Britain. And, an Epic Universe opens in just 2 years now. And it's, if you're a Disney, you have to do something to try to, change the narrative. So it's like, we're going to spend $60 billion. It's like, and how much of that is for mildew mitigation? But all right. Anyway, getting back to beloved characters. So this coming year is the year, right? That Mickey officially moves into the public domain. Is that correct?
That's right, Jim, and we're hard at work here at Fine Tuning Productions on our ripoff of Steamboat Willie, Steampunk Willie, which has a quasi-futuristic Victorian flair, and we think people are really going to enjoy it. So,
Well, there you go. Lots of brass, lots of rivets.
Yes.
Here's the thing, though. Are we really going to see any of that? I mean, didn't Oswald slip into the public domain a few years ago officially? Shouldn't we have been hit with a tidal wave of merch for that character as well?
Well, what's interesting, too, is I want to see how they're going to reestablish the Steamboat Willie connection to Disney. As you and I have noticed, there's been a lot of Steamboat Willie merchandise over the past couple of years. And things like the final episode of the Paul Ruddish Mickey Mouse shorts was very Steamboat heavy, Steamboat Willie heavy. The logo for Walt Disney Animation Studios is Steamboat Willie. I mean, they have really done a lot to connect Steamboat Willie to Disney. So I wonder if people are just nervous about that kind of litigation coming down. But I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet, anything unauthorized, but yeah.
Okay. When we finish here tonight, remind me, I have a story to share with you. Okay. Moving on now to current box office. Again, Boy and the Heron continuing to do amazingly well at the box office. I think you pointed out it's now the highest grossing original anime in U.S. box office history. We were talking, I think, on last week's show about you're out there in the teeth of award season now, and the smart money seems to be on this Hayao Miyazaki movie, having sort of the inside straight, so to speak, on Best Animated Feature for 2023. But we've also seen some other animated, in this case, television series get some recognition over the past few days. We had and Netflix lost Aldi, which charming as hell. That took home 5 awards at this year's Children's and Family Emmys, and it was also nice to see Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur get some recognition. Now, this is the time of year where your poor mailman gets a hernia, right? You have all sorts of...
Yes. I mean, that's mostly over, but I mean, there's still stuff in the mail every day.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so happy for the Lost Ollie team. I obviously am very close to them. And I just love that show so much. I think it's so special.
It is. Yeah.
They work their little, heinies off on that. And the same team, largely the same team, are the same team behind Ultraman Rising, which is out in 2024 on Netflix. So hopefully the same... critical appraisal will be bestowed on Ultraman Rising. So, yeah.
By the way, folks, when we get back, we'll talk, in earnest about, how things are shaping up come award season. And we'll also be recognizing an anniversary, because we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of the release of DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt, and we'll share some stories about that. But first, this.
Oh, the sick day struggle is real. But with Dimetapp, it doesn't have to be. Children's Dimetapp works quickly to soothe multiple bothersome cough, cold, and allergy symptoms in a single dose. Our fast-acting formulas are designed with kids in mind, so they get everything they need and nothing they don't. Available in liquid and on-the-go chewable tablets. Tap the banner now to shop at Amazon and say goodbye to the sick day struggle with Dimetapp. Use as directed.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. This is a real good story about Bronx and his dad, Ryan, real United Airlines customers.
We were returning home, and one of the flight attendants asked Bronx if he wanted to see the flight deck and meet Captain Andrew.
I got to sit in the driver's seat.
I grew up in an aviation family, and seeing Bronx kind of reminded me of myself when I was that age.
That's Andrew, a real United pilot.
These small interactions can shape a kid's future.
It felt like I was the captain.
Allowing my son to see the flight deck will stick with us forever.
That's how good leads the way.
And we're back. Okay, so this is that window of time where we haven't officially announced any nominations. That won't happen till what? Tail end of January?
Tail end of January. I believe that voting starts on the 12th and ends the 18th or something, or around then there. So, yeah, I mean, but we do have a better idea now, Jim, of what will be nominated because we've seen some shortlists for some of these categories, right?
All right. So let's talk about that, and the one that's genuinely kind of disappointing is this news on Wish. I mean, normally it's just considered a courtesy that, whenever a new Disney animated feature comes out, the one spot is on the best song list and the other is for score. And in neither case, Wish didn't make either of these shortlists, right?
Yeah, completely shut out. Yeah, I mean, there was a time in the 90s, early 90s, that it wasn't just that they were going to get nominated. They would win, whatever that was, every single year. Yeah. But yeah, it was shut out of the score and original song categories, but some worthy animated movies did make it into the score category with Elemental, Boy and the Heron, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse making it in for score, which I thought was great. Okay. But yeah, it's very interesting.
All right. Now, if we pivot now to the animated short category, this is disappointed news. Can you talk about what the Pixar thing that we wanted to get some recognition for Bob? So.
Yeah, we were really hoping that Carl's Date would be in there because we love Bob Peterson, and it did not happen. Sadly, a lot of other things did. A lot of things I don't really know or have seen. I would love to see them all, but I have not. But obviously the one that stood out that you and I have seen and talked about a lot already is Once Upon a Studio, which I heard some people actually in the animation community kind of grousing about because of those live action plates.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about it, Jim?
Well, first of all, it's 8 minutes long?
I think it's 9 minutes long.
There's a lot of live action in this. It's hard to know how to feel about it. I mean, I appreciate it as a piece. I'm happy that it's gotten some professional recognition. I just don't know if it should be in that category. This might have been, the best of all possible worlds. Maybe something like, what the Academy did in '95 for Toy Story. I mean, they gave it a special Oscar for recognition for being, so special, or in that case, the first, feature-length CG film. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when people actually begin to vote on these things.
Did you notice that The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar got nominated for the live action short film? Did you ever see that, Jim? The Wes Anderson Roald Dahl adaptation?
Okay. It is short. And it is live action. Okay.
Did you watch those, Jim?
Yeah. What was fascinating to me, remember, during that same window of time was when, there were that spate of AI, Wes Anderson's version of, Lord of the Rings or, Jaws, or it was kind of interesting that, you had these lovely little Roald Dahl things that were kind of underlining, circling, and indenting that, that Wes has a style, a very distinct style.
It was interesting to see the Poison was really interesting because that was always one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot creepier in that show. I think it was one of the ones that Alfred Hitchcock actually directed himself too. But it was an interesting take on that. So let's get back to the short list, Jim.
Okay. Nobody's surprised. The Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse got recognition on the VFX side of the street.
Yeah, I love that because rarely do animated movies actually get recognition for their visual effects. But obviously, the team led by my buddy Michael Lasker absolutely knocked it out of the park on this movie, and it is just the best.
any rumblings at all about Beyond the Spider-Verse?
I have not heard anything about Beyond. Like, going to be a little bit.
Okay. Good things come to those who wait. All right. Anyway, as we mentioned, going into the break, we are coming up on the 25th anniversary of the release of DreamWorks' Prince of Egypt. And this is an interesting film to talk about. There's no polite way to say this, but this was the film that was created with a goal to go after a Best Picture, right? I mean, people need to understand that when Beauty and the Beast came out in theaters in 1991, it was such a big hit and such a cultural phenomena that for the first time ever, an animated feature got nominated for Best Picture. It didn't win, but Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was at Disney at that time, became obsessed with the idea of, we almost won a Best Picture, and I want to be the guy who produces the animated film that wins the Best Picture. So it was Pocahontas that was in development at that time, right?
And I don't think that anybody really knew that, at least not initially, at least, that Beauty and the Beast was going to get nominated. I think at a certain point, maybe around that New York Film Festival screening, which everybody talks about, oh my God, it was work in progress, which I'd heard the movie was actually pretty close to being finished, and they actually pulled out finished animation to put more rough stuff in to kind of present the illusion that it was not as far along and that you were really seeing behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, I think that with Pocahontas and then with Prince of Egypt, you're right that there was a premeditated goal of a nomination. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and what's especially fascinating is Pocahontas came out in June of 1995. So Jeffrey was right in the middle of production of that when he and Eisner came to blows, basically, over Jeffrey insisting that, we lost Frank Wells in April of 94. I've done my time. You should promote me into that role. And Eisner was offended by that and effectively forced Katzenberg out. And I just remember there was a famous story about, Jeffrey was doing his sort of his victory tour. And in fact, a friend of mine gave me a heads up, to get over to the studio. I was living in Orlando at the time. Let's get over to the studio now. And it's like, why? Just don't ask. And go do to the Magic of Animation tour. And it's like, why? Just shut up and go. All right. So I go, I get in line. I see the movie, the highlight reel, and I go to where you're in the fishbowl. And I look out into the fishbowl, and there's Jeffrey Katzenberg handshaking and signing books and that sort of. He had flown down to Florida to say goodbye to the staff there. And of course, what nobody knew is that Jeffrey was also there recruiting for, what would eventually be DreamWorks Animation. But I want to say I stood in there for about 45 minutes as other people walked by and did the tour. And I watched them actually present Jeffrey with a gift. It was a steel drum that was filled with Diet Coke syrup. Evidently, Jeffrey is addicted to Diet Coke or whatever.
I was going to ask if he had one in his hand as he was saying goodbye to people.
I don't know, but again, it was a very interesting thing to watch, and I spent a lot of time lip reading. But yeah, during that trip, supposedly Jeffrey's daughter, asked, kind of tearfully, Dad, what about Pocahontas? And said, oh, Pocahontas will be fine. Don't worry about it. By the fall of that same year, 94, Steven Spielberg, David Geffen, and Katzenberg had set up DreamWorks Animation, DreamWorks SKG, which of course was going to have its own animation studio, which Katzenberg intended to have rival Disney. But the part of the story that I find fascinating is that supposedly Katzenberg kept bringing to Eisner the idea that we should make an animated version of the Ten Commandments. And Michael, every time, would tell Jeffrey, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. So what's interesting that Jeffrey, when he's off the leash, the very first thing he does is put an animated version of the Ten Commandments into production over at DreamWorks. And did you hear any stories from that time about him reaching out to, various religious organizations trying to not only run the story by them, but also to get them behind the project to evangelize it to their individual congregations.
Yeah, I think there's an anecdote like that in The Men Who Would Be King, the great book about the formation of DreamWorks, which is a great kind of continuation of Disney War in some ways, if you've read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was really fascinated by just him trying to poach animators. I mean, you hear stories about people coming to work and there being, Lexuses in every spot in the parking lot because he had created this frenzy for talent that would eventually get squashed by Ed Catmull and his wage fixing cabal, which Jeffrey also bought into that, which is sort of interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was just a crazy time where there was such focus on talent and also that new kind of super detailed animation style that was kind of the Toon Boom software that was being used.
I mean, for me, I remember once talking with Nick Ranieri about, and that's the thing. Jeffrey walked out the door, and Jeffrey was famous for, he'd show up at like 6 a.m. and start calling for folks on the East Coast, and I mean, Jeffrey. What was it, 200 phone calls a day, constantly touching base with people, making sure that he knew what projects were out there or the hot talent or that sort of thing.
5-minute meetings he was famous for having on his calendar.
Yeah. And so and it was just one of these things where Nick was still working at Disney. In fact, I want to say at this point, Nick is now working on Hades for Hercules. And it was just one of these things where it's like, you should come here, you should work with me. And it's like, well, no, but I will let the folks here at Disney know that you contacted me. And then, Nick got a raise, everybody got a raise, as you mentioned, to keep everybody on board, as, stay as Disney talent. But as you mentioned, there was a reckoning that came and a lot of people had to take pay cuts and it was not good. But anyway, back to Prince of Egypt. I mean, it was, a murderer's row of talent. I mean, you look at who directed this thing, Brenda Chapman, Simon Wells, Steve Hickner, and the very fact that right after, Hans Zimmer had done all of that amazing work for The Lion King, here he is doing the score for Prince of Egypt, and likewise Stephen Schwartz. Colors of the Wind took home the Oscar that year for Best Song, right?
Yeah, like I said, without a doubt, the Disney song went home. But have you seen these? They've been doing some actually really interesting things online with each of the filmmakers kind of talking about different aspects of the movie. And I believe it was Simon Wells who said, we were setting a template not only for the movie, but for DreamWorks animation in general. And it's very interesting because, obviously the kind of highfalutin, super detailed 2D animation would be out the door in, a few years' time with Shrek, and a movie that was not very well animated, does not look that good, but really captured the zeitgeist in a big way. So, yeah, there's an alternate universe, Jim, in the multiverse where Prince of Egypt was a giant hit and kind of set the tone for animation for the next couple of decades. But that did not turn out to be the case.
But not for lack of trying. I mean, think about it. We had our direct-to-video prequel, Joseph King of Dreams, coming out the year after that.
Have you ever seen that, Jim?
I have.
It sucks so bad.
Well,
I watched it when I was ranking all the DreamWorks movies, and it's terrible.
Well, but this was the thing, that they had convinced themselves that this could be our niche. We could be the one who does great animated religious things. And for example, they were looking at the money that VeggieTales was hauling in, and it's like, oh, if somebody steps into this space and does great films.
Didn't they end up buying the VeggieTales?
I want to say yes, because, classic media, right?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Sunday morning values, Saturday morning fun, Jim. That's what they were all about.
There we go. And, the irony is, when they were less slick and less well-produced, the VeggieTales things were incredibly funny and entertaining, and actually got across their message in a charming left-handed way. But, again, once they made money, money ruins everything. So, yeah, it's hard to know how to feel about Prince of Egypt. I mean, it honestly did not do all that well at the box office. 101 million domestic, 117 overseas, worldwide total of 218. Did win the Oscar for the best song that year, When You Believe, and again, the strength of the score is why we now have the stage version. In fact, that's another thing that I've been kicking myself about. This fall, the stage version, I want to say it was the London West End production of Prince of Egypt, was shown in theaters around the country. One of those professionally shot, they put the cameras out in the audience and do, full documentation of the musical. But as I understand it, if you go over to Broadway HD, you can also see that today.
Yeah.
But you were just mentioning that you grouped and rated all of the DreamWorks films. Where did Prince of Egypt wind up on your list?
I don't remember where. I mean, it seemed like it was probably in the nice try phase. But I will say that people at DreamWorks were constantly bringing it up because Puss in Boots, which earlier this year was nominated for the best animated feature Oscar. And there's that moment where there's that little dribble of blood that goes down Puss's face. And from so many people I heard, this is the most blood in any DreamWorks movie since Prince of Egypt. And it was like, oh, yes, of course, with the rivers running red with blood that still somehow found its way into a PG-rated kids movie. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a beautiful looking movie. I think there are a lot of great ideas. I don't think it really gels all that well. I mean, the Steve Martin Short stuff feels like it's out of a completely different movie.
It does. Does.
I don't know. It's also very much cast in that very Katzenbergian way of getting the hippest people.
Oh, yeah. Look at that voice cast. Again, Val Kilmer, Ray Fiennes, Michelle Pfeiffer, Sandra Bullock, Jeffrey Goldberg, Danny Glover, Patrick Stewart. It's just sort of like, the name, not necessarily an animation voice, but an A-lister, somebody who could have sat on the couch with Leno or, gone on Good Morning America and helped promote this thing. So, the weird thing of it is there were things that I remember, to this day from Prince of Egypt. For example, there's a scene during the Exodus. And in fact, it's a wonderful payoff for there's a little girl who's frightened, and you see an older man comfort her and lead her in the Exodus. And then there's that great moment where Moses has parted the Red Sea, and you have the crowds moving along the now dry bottom of the ocean, making their way to freedom, and there's a lightning strike. And for a moment you see into the wall of water, and there's a giant whale shark on the other side of the water.
Yeah.
And in a lovely reverse of the earlier scene, you have the old man sort of look up and halt, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And it's the little girl who takes his hand, and it's like, it's okay, and leads him along. I mean, I still to this day remember that moment from the movie, but not a whole lot more than that,
Yeah, I mean, it was also in that crazy time where this is right on the heels of the Ants versus Bugs Life debacle.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And there was just so much kind of animosity in the animation community kind of towards Katzenberg and this new outfit. And for better or worse, I'm not saying that was not, justified, but it was just it was an interesting time for a movie studio to open with two giant movies like Ants and Prince of Egypt almost back to back is just really
I want to say they were like 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
It was nutty. It was a nutty time. So, well, anyway, all right. So that's going to do it for this week, folks. That said, though, that if you're looking for something else entertaining to listen to, there is, of course, Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. And just recently, you wrapped up your amazing interview with John Woo, which was so much fun. That was a two-parter, right?
Yeah, that was a two-parter. I think I actually don't know who's next, but somebody good is coming up. I can guarantee you.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of good stuff, we have, again, just recorded a brand new Disney dish with Len. And again, we talk about the Christmas Carol attraction that was designed for Epcot and never got built. Let's see. Hopefully in the coming week, I will be doing a brand new mud to pay tribute to Aaron and talk about all of the Marvel-related news of the past week, couple of months or so. I mean, it was kind of amazing how quickly the shoe dropped with the Jonathan Majors situation.
Yeah, I was working that day, and it was like we got a note out to Disney immediately, and it like came back. Nope, we are dropping all projects with him.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's sad. Yeah, it's sad, but
yeah. Going to be interesting to see where this goes forward. Oh, also want to talk up Disney Unpacked, the video show we do with Jim Schul. We have a third episode, the one talking about development and construction of Disney MGM. Tail end of this month on December 31st, we're going to do a Disney Unpacked Q&A where we answer your questions about that project. And a lot of folks had some really wanted to know some interesting stuff about MGM. Let's see. Beyond that, again, Drew, social media wise, we are still on Twitter and X, right?
Yeah. Whatever. Drew tailored like a tailored shirt. Follow me, don't follow me.
Same thing. I'm over there myself, and also on Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. Two things before we go here, folks. If you could do Drew and I a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just the show you're listening to right now, Fine Tuning, but also Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast that helps other people find the show. And also, again, just want to thank you for your generosity. Those of you who contributed to the GoFundMe that Len Test and Tim O'Brien set up at the suggestion of Drew Taylor. And again, it's so nice that you folks stepped up the way that you did and helping out Sabrina in that way. And like I said, if you want to check that out, head to tinyurl.com/Aaron Z. Adams. And that's going to do it for this week. So on behalf of Mr. Taylor, thanks for listening.